Troy from ZA Comics here. I get asked this question a lot. It's people want to know why I didn't order a whole lot of a certain title. Why did I run out of a certain title? Things along that line of just ordering comics. It's not an easy answer. There's a lot of different reasons, and I'm going to let you know what they are. But first, I want to give you a little bit of history into the comics market. Back in the 80s, there were two big comic distributors. It was Diamond Comics and Capital City Comics, with a third, little smaller one, Heroes World. Marvel decided in the 90s they were going to mix things up. They purchased Heroes World for themselves to do their own distribution. What that meant was Capital City and Diamond both lost their Marvel distribution. So they both kind of, they freaked out, and they both started trying to get exclusivity with the other publishers to work with them. Well, Diamond offered the better deal, I'm guessing, because everybody jumped and went to Diamond exclusive. Capital City held on for a little while after that, but they got to the point where they were facing bankruptcy or sell. So they sold to Diamond. So then Diamond owned all the Capital City's assets plus their own. Around that same time, Heroes World, it didn't pan out for Marvel. That distribution didn't really work. So they kind of went by the wayside too. And that's how we got Diamond as the big comics exclusive public distributor. With Marvel being the only distributor, of course, people complained antitrust. So this got reported up to the Department of Justice. They started an investigation in 1997 to see if Diamond did in fact have a monopoly. Investigation took 3 years, and ultimately nothing happened. They let Diamond keep the monopoly. So from 2000 on, Diamond Comics was the main, if not only distributor for comics in North America. They had exclusivity deals with all the big boys and a lot of the smaller ones. Fast forward now to 2020, with COVID, Diamond told DC and all the other the publishers that they would not be accepting any more shipments to their warehouses because they couldn't get the warehouse workers in. Well, DC took that opportunity to find two new distributors. They went with UCS, which is a part of Midtown Comics based out of New York City, and Lunar Comics, which is part of Discount Comic Book Service, DCBS, to be their distributors. That shook up the industry quite a bit, especially with DC being 30 to 40% of their overall sales. That's a big pill to swallow. The next year after that, Marvel decided, hey, we're leaving too. They went to Penguin Random House to be their distributor. Now, DC completely left and said, Diamond, send us everything you have that's DC related back. We don't want you to have it. Marvel is allowing Diamond to be a sub distributor for Penguin Random House, which means stores can still buy Marvel from Diamond, but it's going to be at a lot less discount, which cuts into the profit margins. Now that you have a brief history of the comics industry from the 80s to current times, you can see it was a really sordid past. Now, Diamond, it used to be one spot to order. It was Diamond Comics. They had everything. They also bought Alliance Games, which you could buy board games, card games through them also. And they started up Diamond Select Toys, so they had a toy branch. So Diamond was almost a one-stop shop for all types of pop culture stuff. Then COVID hit, like I said, and so now we have to order from three separate. If you want to get everybody, you got to order from three separate people. You got to order from Lunar, and because UCS they stopped, they no longer distribute DC Comics. They got out of the game. I don't believe they were prepared for the amount of orders. So you got Lunar, you have Penguin Random House, and Diamond that you can order from. Diamond still has a lot of the independent stuff, Image, Boom, Valiant, Vault, what have you. So Every week you have to do your updates. So how it works, you have an initial order, which is done, anywhere from a month to several months in advance, and it kind of gives the publishers an idea of how popular the book's going to be, how many they need to print, and then a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks in advance, sometimes a month, you'll have final order cutoff. You've probably heard of that, FOC. That's when you can make your final adjustments and lock those numbers in at that price. Sometimes you're lucky and you can still order after FOC, sometimes not. But that FOC is like your last date to make adjustments and have them count. A lot of people ask me, why don't you just bring in a whole bunch of every title? Well, comics are not like other periodicals like newspapers and magazines. We can't just return them when they've expired or when they're past their time to get full credit. Most of the time when you buy comics, 99% of the time, they're non-returnable. You bring it in the store, it's yours forever. You own it. That makes it really difficult to kind of gauge what to buy. That, and a lot of times they don't show you the variant covers. They don't show you the main cover sometimes, so you don't know what artist is going to be on it. Another problem, sometimes we're ordering issue number 2 before issue number 1's even hit the shelf. It makes it really difficult to gauge the interest in that comic in your store when it hasn't hit the shelf yet and you're already ordering the second one. So, I mean, do I order a lot of the second one? Is it going to bomb? Should I not order more of the second one? Things like that make it, it's like playing the stock market. It's really, really difficult to gauge what's going to be popular. And a lot of times when there's big events going on, they let the general public know before us retailers know. Sometimes I have customers coming in and telling me what's going on because they saw it on one of the various websites online. And the industry, the publishers, they haven't let the retailers know so that we could have a general idea what's going on and maybe change our orders. Okay, the profit on most comics, when you factor in shipping and bag and board, everything else, you're looking at maybe around $1, a little more per comic. So that's why you're not going to get rich off of selling new comics unless you sell a whole ton of them. That being said, you also have the problem with, when they ship them to you, a lot of times there's damages. You'll get, and the damages are never on the cheap books nobody wants. The damages are always on the high-end expensive books, it seems like. So you have to hope that they have a replacement for it in the warehouse. If not, you're just out that sale. They also, shipping issues. It seems like it's been getting worse lately with supply chain. A lot of times, we're supposed to get them at least the day before so that we can process them, get them in inventory, get them bagged and boarded, put it in subscription folders, and all the overages goes on the shelf for sale. Sometimes, with the weather and other various reasons, sometimes shipments even get lost. Sometimes we don't get our new comics on the day we're supposed to. When people get used to coming in on Wednesdays and getting their new comics, it's not always a good thing. They come in and you always tell them, hey, we'll have it tomorrow. They might be working tomorrow and they can't come in. That stuff adds up. And then you also have the issue where people will get subscriptions and they do good for a while and then they keep adding to it and then they get a big list of, on their subscription and then they just abandon them. You try to call them, they don't answer. They always have an excuse. Oh, well, I had this, I had that, I was out of town. Or, oh, I just can't afford it more. Give us a call, man. We can stop your subscription there so it doesn't get any bigger. But these books were ordered for you, especially if they're not mainstream titles. A lot of times they're going to be harder to sell. So, deadbeat subscribers cut into the profit as well. And everybody says, well, just put them back on the shelf and resell them. It's not always that easy. A lot of people don't want to buy a couple weeks old comic. They want it when it first comes out, or they picked it up somewhere else. All of these reasons are why a lot of comic book stores went under. And, it doesn't take much. If you overorder and you get stuck with the books, that's money you can't get back if they don't sell. If you get a deadbeat subscriber who has a big list and they've been good for, a couple months and all of a sudden they leave you with $100 subscription folder, that all adds up. That's also why you don't see a lot of comic stores that go purely new comics. They always have the old vintage comics. They'll also branch out into other pop culture areas. They'll have games or action figures, Funko Pops, things like that. You've got to kind of diversify because, like I said, you're only making maybe at best $1, a little more off each comic. So you got to sell a lot of comics if you deal with only new comics to pay the light bill. So these are some of the reasons why we are kind of conservative on what we order. We don't need to get stuck with the things that, and the publishers are not the best at getting us information ahead of time to let us know what we should order. I hope this video gave you a little background so you kind of realize why comic book stores order the way they do. And if you like this video and you'd like to see more inside comics type stuff, subscribe down below, man. It doesn't cost you anything and it helps us a lot. You can also follow us on Facebook, here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And until you see our next video, later, nerds.